Joining us now with a different perspective on this story is a criminal defense attorney and a legal analyst, Allison Treasel, with her thoughts. Allison, nice to have you back on. How are you?
Hi, Jim. How you doing?
Allison, I'm doing great. How about you?
Great.
All right, so what do you think about Jerry Sandusky and his attorney's decision to consent to that interview with Bob Costas last night?
I'm shocked. You don't do this. You don't go on and talk to the world about and try and deny these allegations. You say nothing. And it was very ill-advised for his attorney to not only, he was sitting there and he encouraged him to speak. This interview did nothing to help him. Didn't help his credibility, didn't help his case. I think it probably hurt his case. Bad idea.
All right, so it did nothing to help him. Talk about how it may have hurt his case.
Well, anything you say will be used against you. That's absolute. He denied his story about how they were in the shower and they're running around. Didn't make sense. It was preposterous. He then calls the janitor's depiction of events a lie. And he really didn't have to say anything. Nobody believes him. And the best thing to do when your client wants to say something outrageous is you tell them to tell their pillow. Say nothing.
Allison Treasel was a criminal defense attorney and a legal analyst. Allison, I guess there's no way of knowing, but whose idea do you think that was? I mean, do you think that Sandusky said, hey, listen, they'll believe me, I want to go on and talk to somebody? Or do you think that his attorney said, this might be a good idea, we might be able to sway public opinion?
Well, I mean, if you're doing it to protect your client and to help their case, this is not the kind of case where you can spin something. And I think that his attorney, who probably wanted the publicity, also agreed to it. But it was ill-advised. He got nothing from it. And frankly, I spoke to Jack Tremarco, who's a polygraph examiner. He'd been with the FBI for many years. And I asked him directly about one of the questions, and where he repeats the question, am I sexually attracted to young boys? There's a long pause, and he repeats the question. And Jack Tremarco said that's the first red flag that the person's being deceitful, because they have to take some time, reflect, and then try and make an appropriate deceitful response. So all around, this was a bad move.
Allison Treasel, my guest. Allison, what do you make of their argument that he was in the shower with a young boy because, as any athlete will tell you, after a workout, you, quote, get a shower?
Not with a 10-year-old, you don't. It's outrageous. Why would you even say that? I've tried to understand the rationale behind him speaking, and a lot of people want to vindicate themselves. They want to give an explanation. And remember, this guy has gotten away with it for years and years, so there's some arrogance there, and that he knows that he's been above the law for so many years that he can snow all of us also.
You know, how much of that is he got away with it for years and years and years and kept doing it? How much of that is he's sick and he can't help himself? And how much of that is he's getting over and he knows that nobody's going to do anything, so he just keeps doing it?
Well, if the allegations are true, this is a very twisted individual anyway. And then he's been under this cloak of protection for over a decade with nobody doing anything. So it's empowered him to believe that nobody can stop him, nobody can touch him. And his attorney should have shut him down and said, hey, Jerry, things are real bad here. Let's not talk about it. Let's say nothing. You got away with an unsecured bond, which to me is unheard of. You're sitting at your house. Most judges would put you in jail. Just keep your mouth shut.
Allison, explain what that is. For those who don't know, an unsecured bond. Talk about the way he is out right now and what an unsecured bond is and what you think he should have gotten.
So this judge essentially released him on his promise to appear. Didn't even set a bail at $100,000, but said, listen, if you show up at the next court appearance, we're fine. Under most circumstances, and by the way, the prosecutor's request was very reasonable. It was not an outrageous amount, $500,000 for 40 counts of child molestation charges, and they asked for $500,000 and a electronic monitoring that was not unreasonable at all. But this judge, who I believe should have recused herself because of her relationship to Second Mile. She was a volunteer with that organization and donated money to that organization, certainly the appearance of impropriety. So she should have disclosed it, and I believe she should have taken the initiative and recused herself. But what happened was she released him on essentially a promise to appear at his next hearing.
Does it strike you at all strange? I mean, we're talking about a small town, a small college town where this guy was able to get away with this for the longest period of time. And then finally, when the hammer comes down, he finds himself in front of a judge that worked with the same charitable organization. And initially she says nothing.
This is more of the same, Jim. If you see and people are calling it a cover-up, a conspiracy, everybody's turning a blind eye. Any one of these people should have called 911 immediately. Everybody knows that when you see a crime like this, you call the police. It's really unfathomable how this has gotten away and gotten so huge. And I really hope it's not a culture that you're protecting one of your own because of a football legacy. I hope that's not it. I speculate.
Allison, let me jump in. What else could it be? I mean, that's exactly it, right? What else could it possibly be?
Protecting a friend of theirs. You know, it's really hard to understand how in the world layers upon layers of people did not act. And it's unbelievable. And the fact that he's out and with literally a promise to appear, because when you impose a $100,000 bail and you essentially stay it for his next court appearance, you're saying it's on your promise to appear. I've had people who fail to have paid their tickets that have to post a higher bail than he's had to on 40 counts of indecent, relations with children. It's unheard of.
All right. Allison Triesel, my guest. She's a criminal defense attorney and a legal analyst. Probably seen her on TV. Allison, I'm going to make the point that that's exactly what that's about. That's about protecting the institution. That's about protecting a huge football program. But to your point, maybe it's about somebody or some people covering a friend, trying to be loyal to a friend. If somebody came to you and said, look, I know this about this person, but I go way back with this guy. I love this guy like a brother. I've known him forever. I can't roll on him. What would your response be to that?
Well, that's an easy one for me. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I turned somebody in. I called 911. A very dear friend of mine did come to me with that, and together, within 2 minutes, we called 911, got the police involved. The man was arrested. He was tried, and now he's spending the rest of his life in prison. So for me, even as a criminal defense attorney, you got to do the right thing. And you have to do the right thing because children are involved.
Allison Sandusky's attorney says there are children involved. In fact, we're trying to find some of these kids. And once we do find them, we think that they will say that these allegations are not true, that Jerry Sandusky didn't do this to us. Number one, do you think they will find those kids? And if so, how does that play out during the case?
Well, let's hope that they do, because I'm sure there'll be many, many more children to come forward. I heard a shocking statistic that pedophiles have somewhere between 100 to 150 victims at some point. So I'm sure there's many more out there. And again, he should be saying nothing. He should say, I'm leaving all my argument for the courtroom. My client is innocent until proven guilty. And I believe that this was such an ill-advised PR move that ultimately it's going to cost his client many additional years in prison as a result.
One last thought. He said in response to the question, are you a pedophile? He said no. I mean, legally, is he a pedophile? What would you call somebody who showers with kids? If not a pedophile, then what?
Well, I think the question goes far beyond that. I mean, the question is, have you been raping children for years and years? And he shouldn't have answered any of these questions. You know, just from the observer and the viewer, it really gave us some guidance into the type of person that he is. But in terms of his criminal case, there's no way this helped him.
Allison Triesel is a criminal defense attorney and a legal analyst. Allison, appreciate your thoughts. Great to have you back on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, Allison, thank you. She just said that decision to do that interview could cost him additional years in prison. That it was a terrible decision. That his attorney should have never let him do that. That everything that he said could be used against him.